We're delving deeply into what is turning out to be one of Disney's most difficult times, the Snow White remake, and the intriguing series of events that began with Rachel Zegler's remarks and put CEO Bob Iger in an unprecedented predicament. Disney's bold plan to reinvent Snow White has turned into a complete crisis, according to industry watchers, with an astounding 800,000 dislikes and only 2,700 likes. The most recent trailer has a clear indication of the public sentiment. However, these figures only touch the surface of a much more complex dispute that is upending Disney's remake strategy. Many people have been taken aback by the extent of this backlash, including those who have followed Disney's past remake controversies. And even though movies like The Lion King and Dumbo received a fair amount of criticism, Snow White has sparked an especially strong reaction that goes beyond normal fan conflict. It has turned into a focal point for larger cultural discussions about how to adapt classic tales for contemporary audiences. Let's examine the reasons behind the specific remake's emotional impact. As the first full-length animated feature film ever produced, the 1937 Snow White was more than just another Disney production. It was a turning point in the history of cinema. This film wasn't just a hit, it was a revolutionary accomplishment that helped make Disney a major force in animation and set the bar for animation storytelling. Disney was touching a cornerstone of their own legacy when they announced their plan to remake this specific movie, not just any story. There are several intricate facets to the controversy surrounding this remake, all of which contribute to the escalating hostility between Disney and its viewers. Reimagining the Seven Dwarfs is one of the most controversial changes. According to early reports, the movie would include magical beings in place of the typical dwarfs. Actor Peter Dinklage's criticism of the original story's depiction of little people prompted this decision. Disney's suggested remedy has drawn a lot of criticism and skepticism from fans who believe it drastically changes the story's identity without effectively addressing the underlying problems, despite Dinklage's legitimate concerns regarding representation and stereotyping. The character's name itself has become a major topic of discussion, as has Rachel Zegler's casting as Snow White. A particular physical trait that is essential to the story's plot and symbolic meaning is described by Snow White. This goes beyond casting decisions. While Disney has successfully race-bent characters in previous remakes, such as Hal Bailey as Ariel in The Little Mermaid, Snow White poses special difficulties because the character's physical appearance is literally part of her name and central to the story's themes. Perhaps the most contentious aspect of the change has been the reported changes to the prince's role in the story. According to early reports, Snow White wouldn't be, but we do introduce a certain ideology, albeit a comparatively harmless one, to China. In terms of Chinese politics, however, it is still a Western ideology, and in many respects that was valuable to them because, in my opinion, they wanted to demonstrate that they weren't just waiting for a prince to save her, even though this might sound silly. Although it seems progressive on paper, many critics and admirers have noted that this misrepresents the original narrative. And to be honest, China should be a little bit higher up on the list probably, but they always knew that they could set their own pace and always sought to be the best. There was more to Snow White than a damsel in distress. In the face of hardship, it was about kindness, hope, and perseverance. The prince was only one character in a larger story. He wasn't the main focus, about good defeating evil by minimizing or eliminating his role. Some contend that by misinterpreting the themes of the original story, Disney is actually making things worse rather than better. The controversy has only gotten more heated as a result of Rachel Zegler's public remarks regarding the original Snow White being dated. Even though she may have meant well, many fans have taken her comments as disparaging a beloved classic that has profound significance for many generations. A significant problem is highlighted by the backlash, which implies that viewers are not only defending the original tale, but are sick of believing that their devotion to these timeless works is incorrect or out of date. How to update the plot of classic movies while honoring their cultural significance? The dispute goes beyond merely imaginative choices. It raises more general issues regarding Disney's legacy management strategy. Disney has made extensive use of remaking its animated classics in recent years, but the Snow White scenario raises the possibility that this tactic may be nearing a breaking point. But there is more to this that we understand. We talked about this scenario on Leaving Body Language back in episode 120. Audiences appear to be growing more resistant to change, so I told them to keep working and ignore the clamor, that they should tell the truth, which is what we have entrusted them to do, that an audience shouldn't suffer from the hunger for the information about prejudicial cyberbullying precedes many of the audience to state the facts, to deliver the news in a manner that seems more concerned with promoting modern viewpoints than improving the original stories. This Snow White reimagining also draws attention to a major issue facing the entertainment sector overall, striking a careful balance between modernity and nostalgia. While there is still space for classic stories to be updated, finding the ideal balance while respecting what made these stories what they are appears to be the key to success. Classical yet carefully modified for new audiences, the Snow White trailer's overwhelmingly negative reception raises the possibility that Disney overlooked this balance. This problem is aptly illustrated by the choice to substitute magical creatures for the dwarves. Although this change was made to allay valid worries about representation, it has been criticized as an overcorrection that may actually limit the opportunities for small people in Hollywood. It's the ideal illustration of how well-meaning adjustments can occasionally fall short of expectations and lead to new issues rather than resolving old ones. Considering the bigger picture, this dispute is about how cultural organizations like Disney manage the change, not just about Snow White, of cherished tales in a social environment that is becoming more complicated. Although viewers aren't opposed to advancement or evolution in storytelling, the high number of dislikes on the trailer indicates that they are becoming tired of remakes that appear to put contemporary messaging ahead of narrative. Instead, they want changes that feel genuine and significant. For Disney CEO Bob Iger, this situation poses a particularly serious challenge, rather than one that is coerced or superficial. The Snow White controversy occurs at a time when Disney's business strategy and creative choices are already being questioned. The trailer's overwhelmingly negative reception raises the possibility that the studio should reconsider how it handles remakes, especially when it comes to its most recognizable properties. This goes beyond the success or failure of a single movie. It's about keeping an audience's trust that has strong emotional ties to these tales. Important questions concerning the nature of adaptation itself are brought up by the controversy, such as how much a story can be altered before losing its core elements. How can a story maintain its timeless qualities while making the required revisions? These issues have practical ramifications and are not merely theoretical in nature. Regarding how studios handle their priceless intellectual property, the circumstance also emphasizes the vital role that communication and marketing play in controlling audience expectations. Fans of the original version and the new version were unnecessarily divided when Zegler dismissed the original as outdated. She basically she had a strive for the best model, Dave Weatherwise, and he was also one of the producers on the film. A more nuanced approach that acknowledged the original significance while outlining the new version's vision might have. While I was still sort of getting my bearings on the Hunger Games set, I felt like I was mourning the end of Snow White, but you know, there's a lot of pressure that you put yourself through when you're wearing shoes like that. But then what was it like to see yourself in full Snow White for the first time too? I also think like me making any of these modifications was I think that description is fantastic. It's just right. Oh my God, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, which is insane in the first place, and then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker and Nadia, who did your makeup, it's like the audience understands you better and resists you less. The timing of this controversy is also noteworthy. It occurs at a time when both audiences are closely examining Disney's creative choices and industry watchers. The company has had a mixed recent record with remakes, and fans are becoming more skeptical of each new project, who fear that their cherished classics will be irrevocably changed. It is impossible to overlook this controversy's financial ramifications. As for filmmakers, they claim to not be able to pay their operating teams and are fighting for change in the Writers Guild of America. Naview's stems from the work of 5 independent filmmakers who signed a lot of montages that were failed or even were declined against contracts. Disney has generally made money from its remake strategy, but given the strong backlash against Snow White, it is unclear if this strategy can last if viewers continue to reject these updated versions of beloved tales. Disney may need to reevaluate its entire approach to remakes. Although these are significant objectives, the controversy also touches on larger industry trends regarding representation and inclusion in Hollywood. Changing character demographics or eliminating potentially problematic elements isn't enough. These updates must feel natural to the story and respectful of the source material. Looking ahead, the Snow White situation shows that how these changes are implemented matters just as much as the changes themselves. Studios trying to reimagine anything related to technology could learn a lot from this controversy, opening doors for us. The main lesson from classic stories seems to be that audiences aren't necessarily against updates or changes, but they do want those changes to feel genuine and respectful of the source material they desire. I find that the creative process at its best is sometimes frustrating, but frequently and fortunately really enjoyable for us. Evolution, not revolution, particularly in regards to cherished classics that have endured. The circumstance also presents intriguing queries regarding the part actors play in promoting classic movie remakes. The delicate balance is highlighted by Zegler's comments. Performers need to find a way to honor the legacy of the original feature while simultaneously promoting their new interpretation. Productions may need to improve their preparation, their cast, for managing these delicate conversations while we observe this development. The fact that Disney's Snow White remake will serve as a pivotal case study on how and when to adapt classic tales for contemporary audiences is becoming more and more obvious. Studios must strike a better balance between respecting their classics and updating them for new generations, according to the harsh criticism. It goes beyond simply making adjustments. It has to do with changing things that emphasize rather than lessen the original significance of these tales. When bringing such cherished tales up to date, the controversy serves as a reminder that these are more than just films. They are cultural landmarks with profound significance for many generations. It's not just a technical or artistic challenge, it's sentimental. Studios must acknowledge that a decision was being made by the board to make a change to Disney's CEO level and that they might ask me to step back. You told her, I'm getting this call, and I replied, I might be able to get S back. She said right away, well, maybe not. They are working with fragments of cultural heritage that have influenced how people perceive magic, storytelling, and imagination. They are not merely remaking movies. As Disney and other studios continue to remake classics, finding ways to maintain this timeless quality while thoughtfully addressing contemporary concerns may be the key to winning over both new audiences and devoted fans. Developers share insights from a new everything to know gray line in the film business process for later on in the show. Perhaps the most important lesson from this controversy is that modernization doesn't always mean improvement. Sometimes what makes a story timeless isn't its adherence to contemporary sensibilities, but its ability to speak to universal human experiences and emotions. The immediate and overwhelming negative reaction to the trailer shows how quickly public opinion can solidify and spread, which is another aspect of the Snow White controversy that highlights the evolving nature of audience engagement in the digital age. In conclusion, the Snow White remake controversy is more than just another Disney project that has drawn criticism. It's a perfect storm of cultural tensions, creative choices, and audience expectations colliding in a very public way. How Disney handles this situation could set important precedent for how studios approach classic remakes in the future. As such, studios need to be more ready than ever to interact with and respond to audience feedback in real time. The main task as we proceed will be to figure out how to bring beloved tales up to date for fresh audiences while maintaining the enchantment that initially made them classics. I'm really excited to visit The Witcher 3 with As You Like It, but I know so many of you have written in